Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual publishing webinar, Reach the Summit, your guide to self-publishing in 2026. My name is Brett Newton. I am your presenter today. I have been with Friesen Press for about 11 years now. I have quite enjoyed my time here as a publishing consultant. So if anybody's ever called in or requested our guide, you've likely talked with either myself or one of my colleagues. It's a fantastic job. I do very much enjoy working here and supporting authors as they learn what's possible and pursue opportunities for publishing their book. I will also introduce our moderator for the webinar, Brian. He's a good friend of mine. He will help moderate the Q&A at the end of the session. So as we go through everything, please pop any questions you have into the chat window. We will get to as many as we can, and any that we don't answer on air will be followed up with afterwards. So please throw those questions up. We are more than happy to get to those. I'm going to start by giving you a bit of the lay of the land, what I'm calling the 3 peaks of authordom. There's 3 major phases of the author journey. The first is writing. Many of you may be in the midst of climbing this mountain right now. The second is publishing, of course. Once you've completed your manuscript, it's time to scale the second summit of publishing your book. The third is, of course, promoting. Not everyone scales this final peak depending on the scope of your publishing goals or project. Book promotion might not be a priority. However, it is something that most writers will want to be aware of, and it is important to be prepared for. Many of you joining us today are likely getting ready to set out on your journey to summit the second peak sometime next year. You might also still be in the process of writing. Regardless of where you're at, I want to welcome you here. You've found the right presentation. Here at Friesen Press, we've got it over 11,000 authors in successfully navigating all 3 of these peaks, helping you reach the summit efficiently, successfully, and without rolling an ankle. As with climbing, writing, publishing, and promoting a book all take preparation and effort. Whether you're a solo climber or need the direct support of a team like ours, today's talk will focus on getting you equipped to make your publishing climb in 2026. It's a journey with a view and a sense of accomplishment that must be experienced to believe. Now, that will about do it for our presentation, or for our mountain climbing analogy. I will get into the agenda now. We will be doing a giveaway at the end of this, so do stick around if you can. So our agenda, we're going to talk about getting to finished, when to stop writing and start publishing, why to self-publish, 4 key benefits to going indie, practical ways to prepare your manuscript for publication, determining your publishing needs, what services you'll need, and then we will, of course, have the live question and answer period at the end, and an opportunity to win a manuscript evaluation. Getting to finished, when to stop writing and start publishing. If you're joining us today, there's a good chance that you've at least started writing or started thinking about writing a book. First and foremost, congratulations to everyone for taking this brave step toward sharing your story with the world and being here to learn more about turning that story into a published work. So we are going to drop a poll here. The question is, of course, where is your manuscript at as far as completion? Is it finished, in progress, haven't started? This is something that Brian will drop into the polling section. The revision process, excuse me, is a very important part of writing, but can also be endless if you don't know when to stop. As someone who speaks to hundreds of writers directly every week, I can highlight a few signals that might indicate it's time to move forward on your journey. First, your manuscript is complete. Seems a bit like a no-brainer, but many writers leave notes for future them to sort out. So you want to make sure you have all these sections filled out. And when it's finished, when you're done writing, that's when a good time to consider publishing. We often recommend that you've done at least one additional pass on the manuscript. You'll want to let the book sit and read the whole thing from the beginning. This will help you make sure that your theme and tone and writing style and organization, argument, that everything's consistent from start to finish. Often, as authors go through the publishing process, your ideas will shift as you write, but you can really only catch these after you've written the work and any of these digressions by reading it over from the beginning. Along with that, we also highly recommend that you run your manuscript through things like spell check, Grammarly. Text-to-speech software is really helpful at catching any initial glaring spelling and grammatical errors. So those are great ways to kind of go over the work that you've done. We also recommend that you seek out and consider a fresh perspective. Now, not everyone's going to do this. It can be very intimidating to share your work with someone for the first time. But if you've shared your manuscript with a friend or beta readers or an acquaintance, getting that outside perspective is really beneficial. And then seeking help, of course, from a professional editor is the next logical progression. A bonus tip: if you get stuck, there's help. Everyone's writing process is different, and everyone's manuscript has different needs. If you're just starting out writing or outlining or haven't started but have a strong idea for a book, there's professional book coaching that you can always get to help you motivate yourself and help you get past obstacles or something like that. Similarly, a book coach can provide direct feedback on half finished or complete but messy first drafts. If you want to trust that beta read to a professional, that's a great opportunity to connect with someone. They can assist you over the course of weeks or months, depending on the needs of the manuscript and where your project is at. I will let you know now as well that for writing support, if that's something that is of interest to you, my colleague Scott is going to be running a training session like this one about writing advice in January. So be sure to sign up for that. Book coaching is a service that Friesen Press offers. It's a newer service here, and we'd certainly be more than happy to connect with you to help you finish your book. So by all means, if you have questions about that, throw them in the chat for that question and answer, or reach out to someone after this webinar and we can talk a little bit more about coaching. Why self-publish? When it's time to move forward with your project, there's a few major paths that you can take: traditional publishing, DIY self-publishing, and publishing services. We have explored these three paths in depth in a recent modern publishing landscape training session. You can visit our YouTube channel to watch my colleague Emily give you a full rundown. However, because we're talking about publishing a book in 2026, I'm going to focus on the only way to do that, and that is going indie and self-publishing. First and foremost, shorter timeline. From acquisition to publication, the traditional publishing path can take years to see through. The self-publishing timeline is a fraction of that. So, if speed matters to you, self-publishing is an excellent option. A side benefit of this is that self-publishing enables you to more quickly participate in trending topics and genres faster than traditional publishing. Second benefit is professional support. No longer does self-publishing mean that you're putting out a book that is poorly edited with glue leaking out the sides. Not only has print-on-demand technology made professional printing and binding more widely accessible, But professional publishing support is no longer gatekept by traditional publishing houses. You can now connect with individual editors, designers, illustrators, and marketing experts directly online, or you can choose a partner like Friesen Press that has a pre-vetted stable of professionals on its team and waiting to help you. The point is, you can have all the creative control and benefits of self-publishing while still producing a book that not only looks professional, but also reads professionally. Speaking of creative control, when working with a self-publisher, you get 100% of the creative control. A lot of authors that I speak with have a vision for their project. Self-publishing allows you to see it through to the fullest. While publishing services companies like Friesen Press, we will offer advice about final decisions, make recommendations about editorial content or book design. Ultimately, the final decision does rest with you as the author. This means you can write with more freedom, guided by your interests and intuition, unshackled from the genre constraints of third parties like agents or publishers. No one's going to demand that you have to do a rewrite of a specific section of your book. If it's the way you like it, that's the way it stays. And the fourth benefit, 100% retention of your story. When you sign with a traditional publisher, most often you sign away your rights. They become owners over your work. With self-publishing, you retain the rights to your work. Makes it easier for you to negotiate things like film deals, foreign translations, or audiobook adaptations. All on your own terms. You're the owner, so folks have to come to you if they have questions about these elements. Another benefit is that your book never goes out of print like some traditional or indie press titles do. Because you own the rights, you get to say how long your book stays available. So if you want to keep the book in distribution, you can do so. Regardless of the path you choose for your book project, there are a number of basic ways to format your manuscript that will make working with your publishing partner easier, while making you look more professional in the process. So these are some practical ways to prepare your manuscript for publication. First, export in a DOCX format. Make sure your final manuscript is saved or exported in a DOCX format. This is industry standard, no matter if you're publishing traditionally or going fully DIY. It's important to know. If you're not writing your manuscript in a DOCX format, like Microsoft Word, that's okay. Virtually all word processing programs will allow you to export your manuscript in this format. Just click File, Export, and select DOCX. I know many folks use Mac, so if you're writing in Pages, you can save it as a DOCX. Google Docs is another great one that allows you to save as a DOCX. We also recommend starting a fresh document prior to submission. So as you're going through the writing process, documents can develop quirks, especially if you're doing revisions and rewrites and everything like that. So copying and pasting your manuscript into a fresh document can really help to avoid some of these potential pitfalls. Keep your formatting simple. You want to ensure your manuscript is formatted and styled as simply as possible when submitting it for publication. This means using a simple, easy-to-read font like Times New Roman, Arial, Helvetica, Calibri, and in a 12-point or 11-point font for the main text. We recommend using 1.5 or 2 spaces between each line, 1 space after a period, not 2. I'm guilty for that. And the goal here is to provide the editor with what is called a clean manuscript that's easy to read. Also, use page breaks. Starting a new chapter or a new section, avoid just hitting enter a bunch of times or the space bar to get to the next page. Instead, insert a page break. This can be done by selecting the Insert tab on Microsoft Word Naturally, during the editing phase, elements will move and shift around, but if you have page breaks versus hitting enter or spaces, things will stay a lot more consistent and the different sections will stay distinct from one another. We also recommend that you set your language. Are you writing in American, British, or Canadian English? Set the language on your word processing program if you haven't done so already. It's not perfect, but this tool does a great job of catching the lion's share of spelling differences between English variants. So the biggest example, of course, is there or isn't there a U in color? Depends on whether you're using Canadian, British, or American spelling. All of these tips are practical and simple, but they do add up to a much cleaner and efficient manuscript. So when you're publishing next year, it will help to simplify things and make it easier for your editor and those who are going to work on your book to go through it. Next, let's talk about the individual components you will need to plan for making your book a success in 2026. As previously mentioned, every author will have different ambitions, and their book will have different needs. Some authors want to swing for the fences and aim for things like bestseller status. Other authors will maybe have more humble goals and desires. Maybe it's a community-based project or something that is more geared just towards friends and family. These types of authors will have different promotional aims. Still important to be aware of the promotional services and support, but they will each approach that element differently. There are some course services that we almost universally recommend to new authors, regardless of what direction you want to go, who want to make their book marketable and sellable. First is, of course, professional editing. Highly recommend that you plan for at least one round of editing for your manuscript. Best practice is to budget for multiple editing rounds, but our most common recommendation is a content edit if you're only going to go with one. Content edit is a hybrid developmental and copy edit. So it tackles elements such as the mechanics, but also looks at structure and flow. So in a single pass, the editors will provide valuable insights relating to your manuscript's content and, as I mentioned, address technical and mechanical needs. Comma is or isn't in the right place, but also looking at maybe an element that is confusing for your reader or something that is inconsistent with a different part of your book. These are things that can be addressed in a content edit. Once you have had your manuscript professionally edited, the next step is book design. A book's front and back cover, as well as the interior layout, massively benefit from a trained eye of a professional designer and are well worth investing in. There's small things that a lot of folks don't even notice, where we're talking about margins in the book, making sure that words aren't running into the binding, different elements like that that a trained designer is going to see. One of the elements that a lot of authors get some great back and forth on with our designers is the cover design. You have ideas and things that you want to see, but maybe they don't necessarily work in a practical sense. That's something that a designer can take a look at and provide you with recommendations for ways to ensure that what you want to see is going to appear on the cover, but in a way that is going to make sense, that is going to be clear for your readers. Following the book design and interior layout and cover design, marketing support. Again, as we talked about before, your specific needs may vary, but you cannot go wrong with strategic book marketing and a promotion plan and a powerful author website. Core services like these are the foundation for any marketing strategy. Now, it does depend on your audience. Adding in things like social media or in-person promotions assets to your mix. So, depending on who your target audience is, will determine maybe the benefits of social media or what platform to use. If you're trying to attract a younger audience, maybe young adult or older teen, things like TikTok or Book Talk are really going to be your friend. If you want to connect more with young families, Instagram might tend to be more popular, business professionals on LinkedIn. So a lot of different elements will depend on who your audience is, but they can all be structured to support you in that marketing strategy. Once you have a marketing strategy in place, print and distribution are super important. These are how people get a hold of your books. While the convenience of print on demand is a boon for authors to selling to readers through retail platforms like Amazon, direct sales at events can also be a massive profit driver for authors. So you can take full advantage of in-person direct sales. Print on demand also offers volumetric discounts, so you can do a print run through that. And for this reason, we often encourage authors to set aside a budget for that first glorious print run. The beautiful thing about print on demand, not only, of course, does it allow folks to buy copies of your work through retailers, go online to Amazon, go online to Indigo or Barnes and Noble, get a copy of the book, it's printed and shipped directly to them, but it also makes smaller quantities much more accessible to you as the author. So if you want 100 books, you can get 100 books. If you only want 10 copies of the book, you can get 10 copies of the book. There's no limit as far as how few a number or how many a number you can get, which allows you to be more picky and choosy. A lot of authors want to make sure they don't have 12,000 books sitting in their garage or in the trunk of their car holding up their coffee table. The print on demand allows you to ensure that you can be flexible with how many books you order and how often you order them as well. That can also play a factor. Something else that I recommend is audiobooks. Much of our talk today has been spent discussing print books, but don't sleep on audiobooks. Last year, audiobook sales returned to a double-digit growth rate, increasing 13% over 2023. That was Publishers Weekly. They also highlight a 2025 consumer survey from Edison Research that indicates 51% of Americans 18 or older have listened to an audiobook. That's a huge number. Audiobooks continue to be further woven into platforms like Spotify, YouTube, other places. I think Apple Books has audiobook options as well, or Apple Music. I believe that Amazon Music also offers audiobooks. As they continue to be woven into these platforms, that audio arrow is trending upwards. We are seeing more and more people go that route. If your readers are audiobook fans, it may very well be worthwhile for you to create an edition of your own. This is also a service that Friesen Press provides, and we are certainly more than happy to support you with that. If you have any questions, by all means, we do highly recommend reaching out to folks, myself or any of my colleagues here at Friesen Press. Happy to connect with you on that. And with that, we've covered our agenda. We kind of bounced right through that. So I will flip it over to our free manuscript evaluation giveaway. This is a QR code that you can scan with your smart devices. Brian will also pop that link into the chat for you. Highly recommend that you enter into this. It's a great opportunity to have a professional evaluation done on your manuscript, something that can be very, very beneficial. And with that, we will throw it to Brian to lead us into the Q&A. He will have a bunch of questions lined up. please, as if you have more questions, by all means, drop them in the chat window. And before we jump into it, my name is Brett Newton. This is my contact information. So you got my email and my phone number with my direct extension. By all means, you can reach out to me if you need any publishing support at all. More than happy to connect with you, connect you with my colleagues. We're here to support you and would love to see your work through the publishing process. And
Awesome.
with that, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. There we are. And yeah, I am now happy to handle Q&A. We've got a little bit of extra time for Q&A, so by all means, throw your questions through, and yeah, happy to help.
Really, thank you, Brett. We got a lot of great ones here in the chat, and we'll start with the first one we got from Elena. Elena asks, do traditional and self-publishing differ in how much income the author makes from a book?
Excellent question. Traditional and self-publishing, I mean, of course, they do differ. How much income the author makes from a book, generally speaking, falls to the shoulders of the author. A lot of that has to do with your marketing efforts and your promotion of what you want to do to push and get the work out there. So there are, when it comes to things like the sale of each book in a self-published format, you're getting 100% of the net royalties, so you stand to make potentially more money on the sale of each book. Whereas with traditional publishing, that royalty or that net income is split between yourself and the traditional publisher. So if you sell more books through self-publishing, of course, you're going to make more money there. If you sell more books through traditional publishing, you will make more money there. It's kind of hard to compare. It is a bit apples and oranges, but it really depends, regardless of what direction you go. If you're putting the time and effort into promoting the book and marketing it, you will see that that is going to be the best way to get a return on your investment or to grow your income for a published work.
Cool. Great answer, Brett. We got a question here from Cheryl, who asks, for professional editing, I've heard there are a variety of stages of editing. What are they, like developmental, copy, etc.? And which ones are crucial? Which can be bypassed?
Great question. It oftentimes does depend on the manuscript itself. So I can speak to Freeze and Press. We offer 4 different types of editing. The one that a lot of people think of most commonly is a copy edit. This is the mechanics of writing, grammar, spelling, and syntax. This, in my mind, is probably what I would refer to as the most crucial. It is the one that can undermine an author the quickest if there's misplaced commas or spelling mistakes. We also offer developmental editing. Copy editing, I'll also mention, in doing research with other editors, is often also referred to as a line edit. Developmental editing is often referred to as a stylistic edit elsewhere, and it doesn't do anything with the mechanics, no grammar, spelling. It focuses just on content, so just on structure and flow, consistency, things like story progression or character arc, or in a nonfiction title, things like the use of visual aids and ensuring that your readers are understanding what it is you're presenting to them. This one tends to be more helpful if there's more support that is needed for the manuscript on the development side, then it is often recommended that we split out the developmental edit and the copy edit into 2 separate rounds. If the development side is a little bit lighter and the copy edit side is, of course, recommended, then the content edit is what we suggest. It does push both elements into one pass, makes it a little bit more affordable as it's not 2 separate rounds of editing. And this allows you to go through and make some changes to it, as well as based on the structure and the content in that, as well as look at the copy elements and the cleanup that was done there. The fourth style of editing that I mentioned is a proofread. Proofread is always done as a secondary round of editing, and is something that, it's another pass just to catch any extra erroneous mistakes. So while I don't recommend skipping any rounds of editing, if budget is a constraint and you can only go for one, if you can go for the content, go for the content. If that's still beyond budget, go for the copy. If you have to skip something, I don't recommend skipping the proofread, but it is the one that tends to be the most skipped, as it is always done as a secondary round.
Yeah, just going off the traditional publishing process as well, they get their books edited multiple times, and each one of those is iterative, and they're catching more things and whittling those out. So multiple rounds always a best practice rule of thumb sort of thing. Yeah, please. I just wanted to say we have a verifiable deluge of questions here in the chat, and apologies if we don't get to any. It's good that we have a lot of extra time here with Brett to go through some of these. So please do keep them coming. Know that we will get to them after the session. There's a lot of really good ones here. Next one we have is from Mark. And I picked this one because I know that it's a common concern for a lot of authors who are a little bit nervous about sharing their work with someone. And Mark asks, how can I protect my work from being stolen by a dishonest editor or individual as they start getting their book out there?
Excellent question, Mark. It is a concern that a lot of authors express, and something that is important to consider. First and foremost, you definitely want to do your homework on who you're working with. Don't trust just anybody who says they can edit a book. You want to, vet them, right? Make sure that they have folks that they have spoken with. You want to confirm that the editor is someone who has been editing for a while, has the credentials to back up what they do. Professional editors are certainly not in the industry of stealing books. However, something else that you can do that we recommend that will always help to put your mind at ease is what we refer to as the poor man's copyright. You can print off your book, put it in an envelope, and mail it to yourself. Don't open it. And when you receive that, it is, as it goes through the mail, it is date stamped. So you now have a sealed document that has a date on it. So if you want something practical that you can do that helps you feel like, hey, yeah, no, I've protected myself, that's an option. There are also manuscript, I believe there's like a manuscript copyright or something like that that you can apply for. I've spoken with authors who have done that, and that will protect the manuscript before it's printed. I find it is, in 11 years working in the industry, I have not heard of someone who has had their manuscript stolen. It hasn't come up. It's not something that happens. So, making sure that you're doing a good job of vetting your editors will be your best support. The poor man's copyright is a great sort of backup if you want something that, again, you can physically do, but it's really not something that comes up often, if ever.
Thanks, Brett. Just furiously answering some questions here in the chat as we go. We had a number of questions about audiobooks. So Beth, Tamara, Cheryl, I think we had a couple more here. But I think there was, generally, if I can kind of synthesize these, it was questions around narration. And if we at Friesen Press have the ability to hire someone to read a book or narrate an audiobook, and if so, how does that process work?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. We do offer professional voice talent and for narration. If you are interested in going that route, what often happens is you have the opportunity to select who your narrator is going to be. You can have one person narrate the whole work, or you can have multiple voice talents do it as well. And there's you can there's a little bit of flexibility there where you can kind of say, who would you like to read this work? If you want an older Scottish brogue gentleman to read your manuscript, that's something that we can potentially search for and find a voice talent for. So there's some flexibility there. You can listen to some samples of their voice and see if that's something that you like. And then when they do the narration, your audio engineer may ask some questions regarding pronunciation of certain things like names or something like that, make sure that things are correct. But if I recall correctly, your narrator will read through, I believe it's a chapter, and then send that to you for you to review and to make sure that you're happy with it, make sure that it sounds good, that, again, that names and those kinds of things, places and whatnot, are all pronounced correctly. And then with your approval, the narrator will continue on. So we do offer that support. And then for those, it wasn't directly asked, but I will say that we also offer audio engineering support for self-narrating. If you are interested in doing the narration yourself, we can help you set up a small, a makeshift recording studio in your home, and then working with an audio engineer, working with you directly, can help you to record your audiobook. So both self and talent narrated are options available.
Yeah, and I wanted to also say that if you've written a personal story, a nonfiction, a memoir, narrating your own audiobook is such a great way to kind of brand yourself, to share your story in your voice. I've been completely audiobook pilled this year, and I love listening to memoirs that are read by the person who wrote the book. I just think it's such a special and unique way of hearing that work brought to life. Doesn't really get better than that for me. So getting back to the questions here, I have a question about timeline from Trish, and Trish asks, how long does the typical process take from finished manuscript to print publication? I'm thinking that's with Friesen Press, but yeah, you can take that wherever you like.
Yeah, I'll definitely highlight Friesen Press and our services. Timeline is, there's always a little bit of flexibility in there. A lot of it does depend on how quickly you as the author get back to us for certain elements. So for example, if we have completed the design and the interior layout of the book, and we send it to you for you to review, how quickly you get back that review to us will play a factor in that timeline. And so we offer what we call an extension of service. With each of our packages, that extension of service means that if it takes this much time to publish your book, that much time is available to you. With our base package, such as our launch publishing path, the extension of service is about 6 months. With our top tier package, such as our masterpiece, the extension of service is 12. Now, different elements will come into play. As I mentioned, I have seen books get published quicker, but two key elements that I always mention when it comes to timeline. First and foremost, we don't want to over-deliver. We don't want to underpromise or overpromise and underdeliver. We don't want to tell you it's going to take 4 and have it take 6. We would rather say it could take up to 6 and have it take 4. The other element is you don't want to sacrifice quality for speed. So I've heard of places that are like, yeah, we'll get your book published in 3 weeks. That's definitely cutting some corners to make sure that the book gets out there quickly. Taking the right amount of time so that you are comfortable with the work, that you're reviewing it, that you're giving approvals that you agree with and everything like that, that's going to be a huge element of it. So the average timelines for working with Friesen Press are between 6 and 12 months, oftentimes a bit quicker.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Brett. I had a few questions, and I'm trying to scroll back through here from Tim uh, and Heather about pricing. So, how that works, how we help, or do we help with appropriately pricing a book? Sort of how that all works, if you can give a little overview of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first and foremost, yes, we definitely assist with providing professional recommendations and support when it comes to pricing the book. So, once we have completed the design and layout of the work, at that point, we know what the final page count is going to be. And when we know what that final page count is, we can then tell you what the hard costs for the book are. So elements like the cost for paper and ink, distribution fees, admin fees, all of those elements fall into those hard costs. As the author, you will then, in working with Friesen Press at least, you will be able to set your price over that. So you'll decide how much you want to sell the book for. We can provide you with guidance. We will offer you a suggested retail price, and we can help you crunch the numbers. How much royalty would you make? How much would you make on the sale of each book at the suggested retail price? What if you charged a couple dollars more? What if you charged a couple dollars less? All of these things we can go over with you. We'll walk you through that process, and we would help you set an appropriate price for your book.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Um, Okay, I have a question here from Rob, and we'll switch gears a little bit into marketing. Rob asks, what type of guidance do you offer for marketing? I find social media intimidating, and I don't know what to say on it.
Absolutely. Social media can definitely be intimidating. I am relatively active, but also very intimidated. So, yeah, we do. Marketing is not a one size fits all. As I mentioned before, it does depend on your target audience, depends on your book, it depends on you as the author as to what you do to promote and market the book. So while I highly, highly recommend social media because it is so pervasive and everywhere and a great opportunity to connect with your target audience, there are other ways and other things that you can do. So, speaking with a promotion specialist and building a plan for things like connecting with bookstores and maybe doing a book signing. A friend of mine in my town here, Victoria, BC, just did a book signing at our local Indigo. There's ways to connect directly with people like that. For social media, the first thing I often recommend is really just a willingness to learn. We do provide coaching. So if you're working with a promotion specialist, we can help you set up a page on social media. Let's take Facebook just as the example. We can help you set up a Facebook page for your book, and we can provide you with coaching on how to use that page and how to run it. We also offer services like a social media content package, which is it's essentially a calendar that you can use that tells you what to share and when to share it on social media. It'll even give you things like hashtags that you can use to try and connect with other folks. My other recommendation there, so that's a service that we can offer. Something that you can do for yourself is follow your own favorite writers or writers in your genre. Watch what they're doing. See when they post. What do they do to engage their audiences and connect with them? That's something that you can follow suit. Take a page out of their books, literally, and see what they do to engage the folks that follow them. So that's something that you can do yourself. You can work with us on social media platforms, getting coaching, having us build that, and even laying out a calendar that will support you through that, through a month's worth of posts and when the best time to put up your writing desk Wednesday or throwback Thursdays.
Really appreciated the take a page out of their book. Didn't want to let that slide by. And I'm also I just posted a message to everyone for Rob, but It's one of my favorite blog posts that we've put out. It's from a while ago now, 2016, but it's a book marketing tips for introverts that was written by one of our book promotions people, James, who's an awesome guy, very, very smart. And I just think that's a really great blog post, evergreen kind of piece of content. I also just dropped the link to the drawing again. I know some people weren't able to get the QR code working. So that link is on there, published.friesenpress.com/climb to enter the drawing. And it's great that so many people are interested in that. And best of luck to everyone. All right, so getting back to questions here. I have one from Bruce, and this is kind of another, what I'll call another kind of vulnerable question. And Bruce is asking, if my manuscript content is truly not good enough to become a book, can I expect to get that honest feedback from Friesen?
Yes, absolutely. You can expect to get that honest feedback. What happens in these cases, and I've worked with a couple of authors who have gotten feedback that the manuscript was not ready to publish. Usually during our professional evaluation, we of course have one of our editors read the work cover to cover. So we read the whole thing in its entirety. If the book is not ready to publish, we will highlight that and we will make recommendations. So the example that I will give is, it was a young author that we were working with, and he was building a science fiction world, and the science fiction of his world, the world building that he did, wasn't consistent across the book. And it was inconsistent such that the editor wouldn't be able to really make heads or tails of what the author wanted. In this instance, our feedback was, the book is not ready to publish. Here's where some of the issues lie in the world building and what you need to focus on. Take it away, work on your writing, and then come back to us, and we can do another evaluation and reread it. So if it's not ready to publish, we will highlight that. We will say why, we will make that recommendation. At the same time, well, I'll say it doesn't do us any favors, or you any favors, to try and force something out that is not ready for readership. By that same token, however, the flip side is also true. If the book is ready for publishing and just needs some editing, that's the recommendation that we're going to make. So if we read it and we go, yeah, we can help you with this, we can help with professional editing, then we're going to make those recommendations and support you with that. So yes, we will absolutely be open and honest with all of our authors and ensure that you are getting feedback that is going to be the most supportive of your publishing journey based on where you are at currently.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brett. I have a question here about distribution from Josh. So Josh asks, if one orders a large number of books, say 500, can these be sent to a distribution center like Amazon for distribution instead of printing one by one on demand?
Great question. So that's something that so Amazon, of course, being a retailer, that would be a question really to kind of pose for them. I know Amazon typically doesn't accept submissions in that way. They tend to be more geared toward the print on demand. It's been a while since I've seen this, but there was a stretch where Amazon, if they found that books were selling particularly well, like one particular book was selling particularly well, they would order a few copies themselves to have in their warehouse. And then as that book was purchased, they would ship them out. But that kind of happens a little bit less now. So when it comes to distribution and places who might potentially take a larger quantity of books, each distributor would sort of manage their own inventory in that regard. And your best bet would be to connect with them directly. Most of our distributors will, like if you think about Indigo, for example, if Indigo is going to consider putting books on shelves, what they want to do is purchase the books from the distributor at the wholesale price, and that wholesale price will cover the hard costs and your royalty, and then they will mark it up in store to the retail price, and make their share that way. So printing a larger quantity of books and then shipping them to someone doesn't often work. The exception to that is depending on how many bookstores you want to connect with. I know a lot of bookstores do consignment, especially for local authors. So if you had, 50 bookstores in your area that you wanted to leave 10 books at each, then great, it's worth doing that 500 print run. They all agree to it and you get those books out. Does require more legwork from you, but it's, that volumetric discounting again, that can be supportive. But otherwise, typically for more information, I recommend connecting with the distributor directly and seeing if that's something they'd be open to. It doesn't really happen all that often though.
Yeah, the black box of distributions is a finicky one for sure. Let's see here. We have quite a lot of questions, and please do keep them coming, folks. We will be following up with y'all after the chat if we don't get to them. So, don't be shy if you have any questions about things you want to know for self-publishing in 2026. Do drop them in. Let's see here. Here's a quick one for you, Brett. Does the size of the book determine the cost of editing? In the example that was given here by Michelle and Ogle, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is 600 pages versus 400 page book.
Yeah, so yes, page count typically doesn't, but editing is based on a word count. So if you have, page count can be misleading. If you have a document that is 1.5 spacing in between lines versus 2 spacing in between lines, that'll affect the size of the page count. Your font and font size affects the number of pages. Word count, however, is consistent. So editing is always based on a word count. And yes, if you have more words, it's going to be more expensive. So, 60,000 words is going to be a 60,000 word copy edit is going to be one price versus a 90,000 word copy edit. It takes more time for the editor to go through and ensure that everything is correct. You can have a look on our website. We do have a section on editing that highlights the different styles and also highlights the cost. Cost is going to be based on it's per 100 words. So a standard copy edit, for example, is going to be $2.50 per 100 words. And that will kind of lay out what to expect if you have 60 versus 90 versus 138,000 words.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. Got a question from Tim here. And I think we kind of touched on this a little bit in the deck, but Tim asks, how far should an author go in formatting, i.e. making it look like a finished book?
Yeah. So yes, we did touch on that in the deck. If you're going to be working with a company like Friesen Press, and usually the industry standard is as simply formatted as possible. So a Microsoft Word document, a .docx, you want to have it in a very simple font like Times New Roman, Helvetica, Arial, those kinds of things. You want to make sure that your line spacing is 1.5 to 2 or so. And yeah, don't worry about margins. Don't worry about different things like that. The designers can take care of that. That's what they're there for. Professional design is something that is very well taken care of for you and looked after. So for manuscript submission, your best bet is really just a Word document.
Simple is usually best for that sort of thing, for sure. A question here from Kim, and we only have about 5 or so minutes left, so we'll try to get through as many as we can here. Do authors ever go through self-publishing, and if it's a success, get picked up, in quotes, by a trad publisher?
100% they do. Oftentimes, self-publishing is a stepping stone to traditional publishing. We've seen authors that have just straight up been picked up. We've seen authors that have continued to apply to traditional publishers after self-publishing, and then been picked up that way. One of the benefits of self-publishing first is it does give you a little bit of leverage when it comes to negotiating with a traditional publisher for a better deal. You've got books that are out and available. You're doing well. It's something they've taken notice of. They need to give you a better deal than what you're already getting. So yes, authors absolutely do get picked up. And when that happens, especially with Friesen Press, we ask you to send us an email to say, hey, I've been picked up traditionally. We pop some champagne, toast to your success, and away you go.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an author get picked up by an indie press, I think last month or 2 months or so ago, Mark McDonald. So shout out to Mark and his book getting picked up. We love to see it. And we know we also have authors who are approached by indie presses or traditional publishers and choose not to because they like the royalty structure that they're making with us, and there's no reason to switch. So there's the other side of it too. This isn't so much a question, but we are talking about self-publishing in 2026, and John brought up AI, and if we could touch on that, and maybe it's not the most inspiring note to go out on, but I did think it's worth, if you have any thoughts on that, Brett, how it's sort of affecting things, what parts of the publishing business it's affecting, obviously writing sort of being affected, but we can start there.
I can definitely touch on AI. AI can be a very useful tool. I think that it is something that there are definitely applications for AI that can be supportive. You want to soften the tone of an email or something like that. There's a lot of great things that it can do. However, AI is not the human mind. And one thing that I have found in my experience working in the industry is that it doesn't really understand context. So I highly recommend you don't want to use AI to write your book. That's not something that's going to be beneficial. At this point in time, I know a lot of retailers that won't stock or consider selling AI written works. There's questions on copyright and who owns the copyright. Sometimes depends on what AI platform you're using as to whether or not they own that copyright or what's generated, or you do. So, I often see if it's a spot where you're stuck when it comes to writing, maybe that's something that can help out a little bit. How do I take this point and turn it to this point? Get a little insight or inspiration from AI. That's fine. But you don't want to directly copy and paste, generally speaking, AI generated content into your manuscript. It is something that tends to be relatively easy to pick up. Our editors often can come back and say, yep, we can tell that this was written with AI, which also means that your readers will do the same. And readers typically aren't going to be interested in AI generated content. So, consistency is tough as well for anybody who is thinking of maybe using AI for generating images for a children's book. You won't get the same consistent character from the first image to the last image. It's going to be something slightly different. So it can be a useful tool, as I mentioned, but there are definitely pitfalls and things that will create more difficulty using AI to generate the content versus using it to support you in writing your book.
Totally. And I know we said that might be our last question, but I can't let us go out talking about the pitfalls of AI. We can't end the year like that. So let's, a number of people asked about timeline, publishing with Friesen Press. I think given that we're talking about publishing in 2026, if you can give a little overview on that and what people can sort of expect in that regard.
Yeah, overview of timeline and publishing in 2026. I mean, January is always a great opportunity for New Year's resolutions and getting things started. So, I will recommend for a more in-depth discussion to reach out to myself or any of my colleagues here to have, a conversation about your work specifically. as I mentioned a little bit previously, timeline can be between 6 and 12 months. It really depends on what the needs are of your manuscript, which publishing package you go with. Obviously, more editing that we do is going to take more time, but there's lots of great opportunity, and the best time to release a book is when it's ready. So, by all means, reach out to us. We're happy to sit and chat with you. We're happy to go over questions and concerns that you have, looking at timelines, looking at how we can support you from committing in January to publishing your book this year, to finally, making that purchase in March, to having it out and available in October. There's a lot of great opportunities, and we're very excited to support you. We all love working here. It's a fantastic place to be, and we look forward to speaking with you about your work and helping you get it out there.
But that's the optimistic end that we needed. Thank you, Brett. And that brings us to the end of our time. I know some people here in the chat had to jet. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And truly, for the last several months running these sessions, it's been super fun to kind of chat with you and be able to answer some of your questions and provide some insights to you. And just wanted to take a minute to say that. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. We can start saying that now as we're getting to the end of the year here. So yeah, hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday season. We'll be back here in January with a writing focused webinar. And yeah, really thank you for staying over. And we will be sending a replay of this chat to you via email tomorrow. So if you have any questions or if you want us to repeat anything, it'll be there. So be on the lookout for that in your inbox. Thanks again. And Brett, you can sign us off.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you all stay safe and warm wherever you happen to be. And I look forward to hearing from all of you.
That's all from us, everyone. Bye now.
Have a good night.